changes. 7th race, scratch the 4, Ranger Fox. Scratch 10, Gong Hai Fat Joy. And scratch the also eligibles, 13, Flamingo Hawk through the 16, stage left. Once again, we are on the turf for race 7. And there's no portable rail in use on the outer turf. Race 7, scratch the 4, 10, and 13 through 16. And note that number 11, Thin White Duke, wears a hood again. 8th race, scratch 7, Spooky Road, and 8, New York Banker. Scratch 7 and 8 out of the 8th. 9th race, off the turf. It will now be run on the main track at 1 mile. We'll go through the scratches first. In the 9th race, scratch 1A, King of Comedy. 2, Mama Band Me, part of an entry. Scratch 3, Editor's Choice. 3X, Brad's Bet. Scratch the 4, Widmark. 8, It's All Coming Together. And 12, Mr. Marlin. Once again in the 9th, scratch 1A, 2, 3, 3X, 4, 8, and 12. And we have a couple of rider changes. The 2B, Mighty Atlas, will be ridden by Erod Ortiz Jr. Erod Ortiz Jr. on the 2B, Mighty Atlas. And number 6, Provision, will now be ridden by Manny Franco. Manny Franco on the 6, Provision, in race 9. Main track fast. Turf course is yielding. We're on the grass today for races 5 and 7. And we have a pick 6 carryover of $159,000. We'll come back at 12:05 to reprise the changes. First race post is at 12:35. Up next, Serling, Stabile, Correction, Serling, and Robert McLennan talking horses.
Morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Andy Serling, joined by a special guest, Rob McLennan, who works for us in the racing office, but also you have extensive experience. Western Canada must be like a holiday up in Western Canada.
Oh yeah, no, they're all tuned in right now at 9 in the morning out there.
Yeah,
tuned in.
So we've grown our view. We brought Rob on to grow our viewership. We felt that we did an extensive study, and we found we weren't getting enough viewership in Western Canada. So really, that's the only reason we brought you on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Andy. I'm glad I could help somehow.
And you actually did the shows up there quite a lot, right?
Yeah, I started when I was 20 years old. I was doing the handicapping show at Assiniboia for 6 or 7 years, and then when I went to Century, I was a couple years of that, and it was always just something I did on top of other duties.
And you moved here to work with us about 1.5 years ago, does that sound right?
April of 2021, so yeah, 1.5 years.
Oh, good. All right, well, we're looking forward to having Rob on. Anthony is gone today. He will be back tomorrow, however, in case you're wondering. People seem to wonder, one of us will take a day off, and it's like, we've been fired, we're dead, we quit. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, occasionally, Anthony never takes a day off, so give Anthony a break, and he gets a day off, because he rarely takes them. We are off the turf in races 1 and 9. Got some rain. It's just not drying as well this time of the year. And obviously, because we're racing so much more on the turf, we're a little more protective of it than we are other times.
Yeah, we still got to get through all the way through November. So
listed as yielding. I'm going to bet it's closer to good, but we'll see how it plays out. One race on each course. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code CUP25. Forget the Breeders' Cup, just about a little over a week away, and those pre-entries came out this week. Obviously, we'll talk about them more as we get closer. We get a free $25 play along with the $200 deposit match. We have a pick 6 carryover, $159,000 from races 4 through 9. And it's kind of a shocking carryover when you consider Sunday's sequence where you had logical horses and a $60 horse that probably should have paid $30.
Yeah, that horse should never have been $60. And then I guess you get the horse in the last. There was about half the
I like the horse in the last, but the horse only paid $14.
Yeah.
It doesn't, even if you didn't like the horse. I mean, even if you used 5 in there, I mean, I would have missed it if I played for a lot of money because I would have used the first winner as a C.
Right.
And the 7th winner, the 8th winner is a C.
Yes.
I wouldn't have hit it, but I could see getting them on tickets, and it's just hard to believe with a carryover that nobody hit it. We got that $159,000 carryover. We also are debuting a third pick 4 today. That will come in race number 3 today, the middle pick 4. So there will be pick 4s on races 2, 3, and 6. Pick 5s, of course, races 1 and 5, and the pick 6 starting in race number 4. So a whole lot going on with that. We'll talk more about it, and Rob and I hope to have some time. We'll go through the pick 6 sequence a little bit more in depth when we're done, if we have some time. If you bet 75 or more at each Belmont at the Big A and in Delaware today, you get $15. You got to opt in over at Naira Bets. We've got the contest. You've got until 5 o'clock tomorrow to sign up for the contest. Weekly contest, $300 buy-in, $2,000 seeded pool. And last, and possibly least, and there's Jack Christopher, who will be in the sprint, and he's going to win the sprint. I don't know. I haven't handicapped the race, but I don't know. Looks like he and Jackie's working. Very surprised Wesley Ward's going to really run that filly.
Yeah, it's
I
guess it's just a distance thing, but that's way tougher.
I agree, and you really wonder. But anyway, what do I know? Wesley's won Breeders' Cup races. I have not. 12:30 to 5 on FS2 all day. So off the turf in race number 1, and we'll take a look at Quarrel, who would have been favored had this race been on the turf. Obviously, his chances are greatly improved off the turf. And the alternatives are much fewer because there were a lot of interesting pedigrees and such. And the reality is that off the turf or not first time, this horse ran some race.
Yeah, no, she ran well. She was attacked 3 wide. Like, this was not the easiest of first-time trips. And Personal Pursuit, who beat her, is not, like, she's no slouch. She came back and ran 5th in the matron. She wasn't beat that far. 71 by her first out. She takes any step forward, even maintains it.
I agree. And even though it's not the turf race, 14-plus lengths from back to 2nd to 3rd. And it's, Personal Pursuit is more of a turf horse, more of a turf pedigree. This is a Mark Casse horse that had run first time in the dirt. Wasn't that surprising. I think was favored in there. You've got her on top. I'm gonna take a small shot against her. I'm obviously not against her. She's going to be a very, very short price. I'm always looking for something. And with Tribal Queen, I think there's a reasonable argument that in her last race she was right down the inside, which might not have been the place to be. I know the winner came down towards the inside, but I don't think she was really inside the 3-pat.
No.
And I think it may be one of these situations where she was right smack dab on the rail. Now, she disappointed in her debut, but she was 7 to 5 that day. I'm going to take her as the other horse in here. You've got the 15, who I have third as the MTO as your second choice.
Yeah, I thought the 15 was a little bit interesting. Tom Albatrani won with the 2-year-old firster Anywho on the weekend.
Yep. And
this is a filly that the works all match up. So just kind of going that way. She's a half to a winner. This is the second full out of a decent mare, like looking for maybe something from the outside. They wanted to be on the dirt here, so just.
Yeah, her dam actually was one of these precocious Todd Pletcher horses that ran her best number as her debut. She got an 82 by her in her debut, was down at Gulfstream Park, but I get it with her. I'm going to try to be a bit of a wise guy here with the 4, but I'm not foolish enough to not realize the Quarrel is way the horse to beat. Anybody else worth discussing here?
I didn't really see too much else. The thing with Tribal Queen that bugged me was the first race just came back so slow after it. Like, nobody's come out and really done much after. But she's the logical alternative, I think.
I just wanted to try somebody else rather than coming up here and giving out a 3 to 5 shot, but I'm not against the 6. I think there's far more interesting race the day goes on. Unfortunately, when you're off the turf, it sort of limits your options to talk about. No, the second race is not one of the more interesting races. We'll take a look at Silly Key. I don't think we have to waste a lot of time here. This is one where Chad Brown's saying, okay, I tried to get you to sucker you into taking her for 25. You didn't bite. Now you've got to take him for 10. And he'll probably get claimed for 10, and he's probably a good claim for 10. Chad Brown, 50% drops in dirt. He's 7 for 13 for what it's worth with a $3 ROI. I don't know. This horse is going to win and lower the ROI.
Yeah, he's going to draw off, and he's dropping to a spot that he couldn't have handpicked a better group for himself. And this is interesting, though. Like, this is one of those stats that just doesn't happen. The last Chad Brown to win an open claimer on dirt in New York was Battle of Evermore. Like, these horses have been like, this just doesn't happen, and he's obviously here to win and get lot. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's done everything he could to win a race, but more likely lose the horse, because even running at a mile last time, he's got to know a mile's a bit far for this horse, and even 7 is stretching it. But the problem is, the horse I've got second, you've got fourth, Vintage Hollywood. I mean, talk about his form. It's just completely and totally fallen apart. And Musical America's form has fallen apart as well. He did run reasonably well from a figure standpoint last time, but he's been in some spots where he actually had some chance and run pretty badly.
Yeah, I had First Deputy second, and when he scratched into Musical America, like, this is a horse that maybe the number works last time, but this is the first time he's been in sort of a realistic spot since April. And maybe he just sits second in behind Even Thunder and can hang on when Skilly K goes blowing by. But Vintage Hollywood's been off form. Like,
I thought he was in a reasonable spot about 4 races back. I know somewhere in his relatively recent PPs, I actually picked him. He didn't run very well. Race number 3. Race number 3 is a strange race, because we'll take a look at Bernardi back in June when he finished third, not his last race when he didn't do any running at all. And I get falling for him, and I picked him second. He's the worst to beat, and he's going to be forward in a race where I guess Ray to March is going to go to the lead. I don't know, man.
He's hard to trust.
He's hard for me to take at a short price.
So you go back and watch his race July 17th, and he has trouble early. He gets this kind of nasty trip where he's covered up the whole way, and then he stops. He's done at the quarter pole. And now they give him time, so obviously something went wrong. I just went back. If he runs the June 4th race, he wins.
Yeah.
That's nobody else in here can run a 76 Beyer sprinter.
The problem is he rarely runs those kind of numbers.
That is the
You know
problem.
what I mean? And it's like, you really want to take, and I don't see how he's 5-2 in here.
No.
Is he really not going to be like 7-8-5 in this race?
I thought he was going to be 8 or 9-5 on the morning line.
Yeah, I mean, because David's usually right of these things. He's got Box of Joe and Ray to March as similar prices, and maybe he's right, but Box of Joe is a turf horse who, granted, was running against better horses, and I guess Wesley Ward never realized that Sheriff Bianco should have been on dirt his entire career. But then again, there's a lot of trainers that scratch dirt horses off the turf races. But is he really going to take that much money? And I know Ray to March is the speed, but my God, he's just so slow.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like Box of Joe. So Rob Falcone's 1 for 20 dropping from allowance to claiming races, and now this sort, and he's not going to make the front, so he's going to have to sit some sort of trip. And so if you're taking somebody with a trip, you're trusting him to wake up on the dirt for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best thing going for him is that Rob's horses are running very well.
Right now, he is.
But it also feels with Rob where he's just sort of run out of options with this horse, and he just wants to drop this horse down and try to find a spot. And he has found a reasonable spot. I'm just not betting that horse. I don't like that horse in general. I'm going to give Umbria a chance. We'll go back when Umbria won and came from the absolute clouds to beat in a really, really weak field. There's no question about it. Having said that, this horse spent a lot of time down on the inside last time, when I think you might have been a little bit better off staying towards the outside, and he was down on the inside for the vast majority of the race. And also, it was just odd that he was on the pace. Yeah. I mean, this is a horse that was 13 lengths behind, and I understand one track is different than the other, but even if it was a little bit of a faster track last time, which it was, suddenly he's on the pace and a complete change of running style. Now he draws towards the outside, and I just figure dropping down, he's the only other alternative. And maybe because of Randy Persaud, the price will be better than it should be, because I think he's the second likely winner at worst.
Yeah, you're going to get the little Randy bump, and the speed, like that. Where did that come from? So now he comes back into the spot. He's going to get, if anybody goes after Ready to March a little bit, does he just sit there and pounce in behind him? I could see that.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he can. Listen, he had speed once in the past,
Yeah.
but he ran so much better for Linda 2 back from way back, and it was sort of Irad's plan. And if Irad Ortiz finds a plan, albeit against a much weaker field, but if Irad Ortiz finds a plan that works, I'm not exactly sure if I'm an apprentice rider why. Now, listen, maybe Randy said, he can be closer, and he asked a little and he kind of took off, but I also didn't like the fact that he was down towards the inside. Race number 3. I thought race number 3 was an extremely tricky race. I'm sorry, race number 4. And race number 3, by the way, once again begins that new pick 4. Race number 4, we start out the pick 6 with the carryover, 159,000. I think they're trying to put it up. There it is.
There we go.
159,000 in race 4, and like I said, we'll talk about strategy in it a little bit after we get through the card. Honestly, when I looked at race number 4, I'm not thrilled with Halo City, though I always kind of like her a little bit. I don't think anybody's impossible in this race to get a piece, including the sort of insane horse that you picked, and I'll let you talk about her since you started her on top.
So this is a filly that I went back and watched these 2 Argentinian races, and she's got all sorts of speed. And she goes, and the filly that beats her in the Group 1 in October of last year is 5 for 6. She's done everything right, and now she comes to this country, and there was kind of a little bit of press about she was bought by Breeze Easy, brought over. She gets into the 2X at Saratoga. There is no smash ticket type speed in here. Self-isolation is going to be in front or going to be close to going on paper, but smash ticket and Betsy Blue are significantly faster than this race's was. Faraway Love looks around when she gets down the backside and she throws her head in the air and she didn't look like she was taking dirt at all. Now they stretch her out and she could make the lead here. She could, self-isolation's got a little bit of go, but Faraway Love, I think they might have learned something with her here. And I'm just taking a shot. She's going to be a big price, and she could be in front turn of her home.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Nick Tamaro about it, and he was making a similar type case for her as well. And I watched her last race, and I get what you're saying, because there is, listen, you want to kind of like her, and she was in an incredibly tough field. I mean, Smash Ticket didn't win, but I think she was the morning line favorite in the Raven Run, right?
Yeah, she was one of the choices. She's got to the head of the lane.
And Betsy Blue, I'm assuming we'll see Saturday
in the Iroquois,
in Showcase Day, and she's just been in, raging form. I get it. Listen, like I said, she's a stranger in here, and I think this is a very tricky race to start out the pick 6, because for most people that play, if you're playing for more money, you're playing multiple tickets. Putting the tickets together is going to be very, very important. And you start with the fact you've got her 4th, I've got her 2nd. It's Cold and DeHare. Linda Rice's numbers, and we'll take a look at her race 2 back, I think, when she finished 2nd to Amamaluk. Linda Rice's numbers off these kind of layoffs, I looked up 5 months to 9 months, basically 150 to 270. They're okay. They're like 16%-ish, $1.60-ish, $1.70-ish ROI. They're okay. They're not great, but they're not terrible. No. The thing about her is, you go back to this race, this was a day where speed got very good late in the card. Whether or not it just was aberrational or not, I don't know. So arguably she was against it. And then the time before that, she was a little bit against as well on January 23rd. So she has some excuses in those races. She also lost a glass ceiling. But then she has that race last time where she's 1-2 and she can't lose on paper, doesn't run a step.
She did not run a step.
I will say one thing. I mean, I guess Linda doesn't have any options, but she doesn't run her back for 35.
No.
She doesn't want to completely dump her. Now, I don't know. Does she have pedigree value? It doesn't feel like it at a hair icebox. So the fact that she's not dropping her significantly, I thought was a positive. I just don't know if I can trust her.
Yeah, she's hard to trust off the layoff. There's a 32 mares that we're going to run tomorrow that she could have very easily been in. So now she shows back up in here, 1 step down from where she was in the spring. She's kind of trip dependent for me, though. She needs them to get going a little bit, and would it shock me if she's flying for 3rd and we're like, oh, it's probably next time for her.
Well, if you think the 2 is going to show speed, it puts more speed in the race because of self-isolation. And we'll take a look at self-isolation's last race at Los Alamitos. Self-isolation is a tough horse in here because there's an argument. Listen, your horse may show speed and it changes the whole situation. But unless that happens, she's totally loose in here.
For sure.
And she ran an 85 buyer last time. I have a little trouble with the fact that she ran these 2 figures at Los Al at super short price against bad fields. And when she ran in more competitive dirt races in the past, she ran terrible figures, and her best figures at Los Al. Yeah. So I'm wondering how reliable she is.
There were 6 wire-to-wire winners in that card, September 22nd when she won. She makes the front. She never got pressure. She really galloped along in front. She is 2 for 2 going long on the dirt. I get that. on the most basic level, she is the horse to like in here. She's probably a lot of people's A horse in here, or maybe even...
She has to be an A or a B somewhere because she's the speed, and she obviously has race can win. You have to use her.
For sure. If you can get past her, though, doesn't this open up all sorts of possibilities of big payouts?
Well, of course. I mean, customer experience obviously going to get bet off the big figure last time. She's not impossible. I've got her fourth. She doesn't do a lot for me. She's not exactly reliable, though her lesser numbers can win. I put a horse on top that normally I didn't really like, but I looked at Sweet Wilhelmina, and her last race, she was out in the middle of the track. I know it wasn't a good field, but maybe on the sloppy sealed track down there, she just didn't run her race. And she still ran a reasonable enough fig. And you look at the race against WW Fitzy and Bees and Honey. They're just better horses than she is. And she was down on the rail for a lot of that day. And I don't think the rail was terrible, but once again, there were a lot of these days at Saratoga that the more time went on, the more it seemed like being right down inside wasn't the place to be. And at the end of the day, WW Fitzy and Bees of Honey may just be better horses than the one she's running against today. In fact, I think WW Fitzy is actually a big-time player in the Pumpkin Pie on Saturday's card. She comes to Tom Morley and she's turning back. I don't know. She's got races that can win, and she is fairly consistent, and Scott Lake keeps shipping her up here for these races. Is he really going to keep shipping her if he doesn't think she can compete in New York?
Yeah, no, she certainly competes. And the thing with her is she gets a big check every time she comes, even if you're on second or third. Yeah. She chunks off enough to cover
$10,000 race.
A good chunk of her good chunk of her expenses.
The horse that I don't like at all here, who's going to take money, and I'll get her in the winner's circle, is Tap the Fate.
Yeah, I'm right here with you.
She ran up a good rail when she won her debut.
Yeah.
And she just runs slow races. I mean, she cost a lot of money.
Has she gotten any faster?
The great news for them is it 4 or 5 that you lose it? No, she's got another year with that purchase price still showing up.
Yeah, 1 more year.
Yeah, she debuted actually at Belmont, but we would have been at Aqueduct on Breeders' Cup weekend. Yeah. I just feel like she's going to take money. It's Clement. She's got a big purchase price, and she's just slow.
Yeah. She's got the 2 horses that came back and won. It looks all flashy. She's the horse to be against in here.
Well, the horse that that won did actually, the horse who was 4th was okay. Yeah. Horses have run, but I think like other horses came back and ran worse. Yeah. And it's just, I looked it up and I can't read my handwriting. I'm going to let her beat me. It's a very, very tricky race to start out the pick 6, and then you get the 5th race. And I think the pace is probably a big part of the discussion in race number 5, and we'll start with Call Me Harry, who you could argue that Jordan Wyckoff and Joe Sharp have been very, very smart in stretching him out. You could also argue that they've gotten away with 2 preposterously slow paces, and he's like the new She Belongs to Daddy, who had no speed, but people kept letting wire field because she went to the lead in races.
Yeah, no, he was it 25 the one day and 24 and 2, and just letting them. Hey, if they're going to give it to him, why aren't you going to take it? But
of course,
he's going to get much different pressure today, or at least he should.
It's very, very hard to see him not get some pressure today. And it's actually a funny situation because you've got Jordan, who owns this horse, and his father's 3 Diamonds, who owns Ocean Atlantique. And we'll show Ocean Atlantique's, I don't know which race I put up, if it's the last turf race, I think.
It's September 3rd.
November 3rd, September 3rd. This is a very good field. I understand that if you took them out, that you could argue Call Me Harry's faster. But this horse has been setting faster paces lately in the turf races, and they have found a running style that has transformed him. How can they possibly rate him in this race?
No, they can't.
I mean, he can't compete with these on his races where they weren't aggressive. So how do they not go?
No, he's going to have to. Those 2 races at Saratoga, you could say maybe he's that much better at Saratoga, but even his dirt effort, that's the best dirt race he's ever run, so he's in good form right now.
He's in very good form. Being aggressive has helped him. And frankly, how do they not send Bally Dooley?
Yeah.
If you're going to stretch this horse out, you've got to go with him. There's no reason to be in the race. And the reality is, I think he could be the fastest of these, a horse who's never been effective when he hasn't had the lead even in sprints. So I don't know how you rate him. Now, I understand they'll probably go 25-50 anyway, because that's what happens in these races in New York. But it's hard not to see the pace get hotter. And I guess that brings us to Wooten Asset, who's second off a layoff, who got a really good ride, but I thought was a little unlucky in the stretch in here.
Yeah, I thought he should have got through here, and then Decorated Invader kind of closes the door on him.
Yep.
And Decorated Invader comes back to win last weekend at Woodbine, former Grade 1 winner. And now Wooten Asset has to switch the inside. If they get really rolling,
right there, he gets blind switch.
Yeah.
Right there. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. That's what I was waiting for too. And then we've got Graham Motion, who's second off the layoff, and this is a horse that figures.
This was, by the way, Rob's contribution to the show. I don't want you to think that Rob didn't do anything to contribute to the show. This was Rob's big moment.
Yeah, this is my stat that I found formulator.
And Graham likes that picture because it's 20 years old. This is quite a stat.
Yeah, 8 for 19, second off the layoff, 180 to 365 on the turf at Naira the last 5 years, 487 ROI. I get that Highland Chief inflates it a little bit.
But it's still an ROI of over $3, I think, without him. So it's not like, and it's still 7 for 18.
So this is the horse that I was excited about in here. He looks to get in the right setup. He looks to take a step forward. And you could argue he's a 4-year-old that was a graded 6 winner as a 3-year-old. He could take another step forward here again.
Oh, I agree. He's extremely dangerous in here. I just feel like everybody's going to go to him, and he has no speed. Now, I picked a horse with no speed either, but he still has a little more speed than Wooten Asset. But I do worry a little bit about these races where they just assume they're going to call apart, which is why I have it can be done, and we'll get into in a moment. As far as Shadow Spin, I have no argument with the 3 here, and obviously I have no argument. My horse pick him second. I know that Mike Maker's turf off the claim numbers haven't been great lately.
No.
But this is a pretty interesting claim for him. And the reality of him is he ended up making a big wide swoop on a turf course. You wanted to save ground last time. He was probably 3 wide the turn, 6 wide into the stretch. But he's not a sprinter, this horse. And he's coming back 13 days because everybody was trying to get the money down at Kentucky Downs and the big purses and everything. And now he's been given a month and a half since that race. And you look at his race 2 back to Law Professor. I mean, this horse competed against some pretty good horses, and he's got plenty of fast races going back. And his race going longer 2 back is fast enough to win here. And I thought he'd be a slightly better price. So I put him on top.
I had that same thought. I thought it was interesting, too. They scratched Sunday at Keeneland to run here. They were in a big field 2X on the turf that Ian Wilkes won from post 13. And this horse scratched out of here to enter into here. But if he runs back to those Del Mar races, he's figures. I think he's the second most likely one.
Even the Kentucky Downs race 2 back. As far as it can't be done, at least he'll be close. Tom Fletcher actually has very good numbers on trainer switches in the turf. It's a minimal amount of horses, but he's 8 for 34, 24% with a $2.02 ROI. We actually, I think, can show that. I think I sent that one in. I understand that I'm not lonesome, and we can get that stat up.
Yeah.
You guys fell asleep prematurely. Scott Hazelton really grew. Bigger. Used to be on that show. There it is. At least this horse will be a bit more forward. And I'm not Lonesome Fugitive's biggest fan, but I think he would fit in this race.
He would, yes.
He's got races that give him a chance. Third in the Hill Prince last year. And I don't think the Todd Pletcher trainer gets good, and Todd's been pretty hot lately, so I just thought this horse was interesting as another horse. We'll see what happens, but it's another somewhat open race to start out, and you have to make decisions about how you feel about the pace in this pick 6, late pick 4, after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses, presented to you by our sponsor at Saratoga Springwater, Rob McLennan. Joining me today, Anthony Stabile has the day off, a well-deserved day off as we move on through the sequence. And I have to think the horse that will get leaned on the most is Don't Lose Cruise in this sequence. And we'll take a look at his first race. And I tried to beat him with a horse that lost to him by 6 lengths. But I will say that Inspector got bet last time. He was wide, but the rail was not the place to be. But the rider of Don't Lose Cruise, John Velasquez, did a very good job of keeping him off the rail. I thought Inspector ran like a horse. He was not bumped to the brake. It's just nonsense. I don't know where that comes from. He came in at the start, but it was really nothing. He didn't run great in the stretch, but I got a feeling this horse is going to run a lot better today. And I just wanted to take somebody else. Now, maybe he was back because it's my racehorse last time out, and it's going to be hard from the reserves, and I don't have a really strong reason to take him. I just feel like maybe I don't want to take Don't Lose Cruz at 6-5 when he was 27-1 last time, but he's way the horse to beat.
Yeah, no, he's... The 6 lengths just kept bugging me because, as you said, he wasn't bumped at the break. He broke a step slowly, but he was a first timer.
Came in at the start.
Yeah. And then he circles up and he lugs in and he's green, but was he 6 lengths green? Like this wasn't like he was getting cost a length. If he's a length and a half or 2 lengths behind him this time, wouldn't shock me.
Well, I guess the question is, how confident are you that Don't Lose Cruz will run back to that race? That's the problem, because he's 27-1 last time, and now he's under 2-1.
And you're going to take even more money with the IRAD factor. But this is a horse that's got all sorts of speed. Will one of the first timers show enough speed to go
That's
with
the
him?
other thing. There may be live first-time starters here. Now, I made these picks a long time ago, and I put the 8 Mariachi third. I ran to Kendrick Carmouche, who I know was optimistic this horse will run well. He told me he thought the horse, he told me we were talking about another race, and he said, I really think that horse in the 6 could be okay. He's got obviously it's a tough race, and if the 10 runs back to his race, none of them are beating him. But you do wonder if Kendrick likes this one, he could have speed. I also thought Charlie Baker's horse, who you have third, that horse is kind of dangerous in here.
Yeah, that horse, kind of a cool pedigree. He's half sibling, first out of a sprint winner. Charlie's okay, first time with 2-year-olds. Like, it's one of those things where he's got that 47 work, October 13th, kind of stands out a little bit. The Damsa Stakes winner on the grass, who's a nice mare. And then, so is this horse kind of live? Jose Gomez, you lose a little weight. He's going to be aggressive, you'd think.
I also feel like Charlie realized he's a Mendelssohn, who's a scat daddy, who may turn out to be an effective turf sire. Yeah. And the Dam is a very good turf horse, as you pointed out. Charlie riding this horse in the dirt, to me, says, a couple things. Maybe he feels the horse needs a race, but you would think this time of the year you'd want to get on the turf because we're running out of time. Yeah. And you never know the rain, you never know what's going to happen. The fact that he runs in the dirt, he's got a whole winter to run the horse in the dirt.
Exactly.
Probably a reasonably good sign that he's doing it because he probably feels like the horse has shown him enough. He wants to give him a chance in the dirt, even though he's got more pedigree. So obviously, listen, if the 10 runs the buyer he ran last time, it's unlikely a first-time starter is going to beat him, but he doesn't have to run back to it. Maybe the 4 improves, maybe one of the firsters gets it done. And I think that it's another problematic race in the pick 6, excuse me, in theory, because you're betting it blind. Yeah. It's the third leg of the pick 6. The truth is, it probably would have been a better spot if it had been the 5th. Now I understand with turf racing, but it's different courses, keeping the races apart. And the problem is you're betting into this blind. Now you're not betting it blind in the pick 5. And to be fair, we didn't know we'd have a double carry over the pick 6. So it's placed in a spot that's fine for the late pick 5, fine for the late pick 4. A little bit problematic now for the pick 6 because, I mean, let's face it. What if a horse like the 2 or 8 takes significant money into the 10? That's a horse that you would want to be sure to have somewhere pretty strong on your ticket. Otherwise, you're kind of playing blind. I don't know. Tricky race. I think it's a very difficult sequence because even the race with maybe the best single, there are problems because of the first-time starters. Race 7, I thought, was a very, very interesting race. And I think the first question to start with is, Thin White Duke, did he just does he love Saratoga, or did he turn his career around? Because if he runs the races he ran up there, I'll forgive his last race. It was a boggy turf. Dancing Buck got loose in the lead. I was very annoyed that he's also eligible in a turf sprint. They're really not being fair to our New York runners. I feel a bias. I feel a Midwest bias coming on. I'm kidding. And we'll show his race up in Saratoga when he beat Fauci. This horse got very good up in Saratoga.
He was awesome in Saratoga. The Lucky Coin and the Troy were like the Troy. He's a neck away from beating Golden Pal, and he was flying at him.
Yeah, he was really good up there. True Battler's okay, the horse who was second, and he got really good. Now listen, I want him to get good. Steve Christ and Ken Doretto own him with Phil Gleaves, are good friends of mine. I want to see them do well, and I mean, maybe at a certain level you overcomplicate it because, I mean, he could just be better than these horses.
Yeah, he could just be a turf sprinter. And really, while we're saying he's good at Saratoga, his turf sprints are just good. Other than the yielding course last time in the Belmont.
It's really a funny conversation because we do have to move along. Because Dave Donk stretched him out first time and he won at 35-1. He didn't run even that badly in the routes. Ultimately, I think he's better sprinting. I wanted to show Turn of Events very quickly, his last race, because he's IRAD and he's going to take money. I do not believe this is a 6 furlong horse, and I don't believe he's as good as these horses. I know this was 6.5 furlongs, but 6.5 furlongs Kentucky Downs might be like 7 furlongs.
Yeah, he's going to take too much money, too, for what he's going to be.
Now, he'll be a bigger price in the Big Six than he will be on the board because he won't get all the IRAD money. But I'll get him in the winner's circle. I do not like this horse in this race. Who'd you pick on top in here?
Maxwell Esquire.
Let me say something about Maxwell Esquire. Are you worried about the scratch of the 4?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I picked him too, but go on, talk about him.
He's dirtied up. He's 10-1 on the morning line. If this race was in July, he's 5-2, 3-1. The 3X going a mile, he is in the parking lot at Saratoga.
And he's not a miler anyway.
No, exactly. And then last time in Kentucky Downs, he beats the horses around him. The speed gets away. Bad Beat Brian's 8 lengths in front going down the...
Right.
And he's got no chance. He gets up for 4th. Is exactly.
And he's really going longer at 6.5 there.
So now he gets back to doing, for the first time for Maker, what he really is a turf sprinter, and this is his level. He gets beat by Fauci last time at this level, but he kind of had the worst of it with Fauci. Fauci got up the inside on him. Now he gets into the spot. He's going to sit right in behind the speed. He's 10-1. Maybe he's not the most likely winner. He should be 4-1 in here.
I agree. He's also a horse, a good turf sprinter, that in the past has shown the ability to close into lack of pace races. I think, though, if you're trying to beat the 11, excuse me, sorry about this, the 1 Noble Emotion is the worst to beat. He got a ridiculous trip last time out, and we'll show his race 2 back. And this is a funny race for me because I bet him, and I was mad at Jose for rating him, and my friend said to me after the race, "You owe Jose an apology." And I joked with Jose in the paddock, and he said, "Listen, I had no choice. If I didn't let Ranger Fox go, he was going to bury me. So I had to let him go and hope that I could win." And as it turned out, he made the right move in doing so, and Cazadero beat him, came back with a stake. Now, Cazadero should have won this race. He was extremely unlucky in there, just as I was extremely stupid not to realize he was running in the Arctic and bet him back. I think, even though the 2 Prime Factor has speed, I got to think he comes out flying today. And I know he rated, but he's going to be the speed and the one to catch. I'm going to use a lot of 1s and 3s here.
I thought 1-3 had to be A's, and then whatever you did behind it was what you had to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Fauci, and listen, I would use Thin White Duke because he might just be better than these. And I don't want to just be dismissive and say, oh, he got good in Saratoga. He's not going to run well here because that's a slippery slope because he's not a bad horse, and he's a horse that never had a 3-year-old year, and he might just have gotten good, and it makes him the best horse in the race. Fauci never wins. No. So I understand having him 3rd, but I would use him as a C in the pick 6 because he just doesn't win. He's been in too many spots. Listen, I'm not saying he can't win, but he's been in too many spots where he should have won. Listen, there are other horses. 7 Cents is not totally impossible in this race. I don't even think Battle Station is ridiculous to get a piece of the price.
No, he gets back onto what he wants to do as turf sprint. Like, he beats up the 2Xs off the dirt last time, but...
Yeah, it's a tough spot, but he's run some good races. Race number 8. Race number 8's a funny race. Now, I'm curious to see what you did in here because I guess we're both going to try to beat Know-It-All Audrey here, who's going to be a very short price. And we'll show the last race. And to be fair, I want to see her run back to an 85 buyer, but the thing is she still might run a 75 buyer and win this race. And there was a very key scratch in here with the 8 coming out. Yes, it helps Sister Supreme.
For sure.
But it also helps Know-It-All Audrey because not only is she forward, it's going to hurt the closers. And that's why I moved her to 2nd in this race because the scratch is going to make her job easier. But I just don't want to take 6.75 on her in here.
No, like, is she all of a sudden no burn now for Oscar Barrera, claimed off actress?
Well, no burn had very good form when Oscar kept him. He just did a good job holding his form.
But she has to prove it to me, and you can prove it not at 6-5. I like Jason Brennan. That was where I was. I just think she comes out of tougher races, and she can kind of stalk. I don't think she'll be 9-2 either. I think she'll be ticked down a little bit too. 7/8 worries me with her.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Know-It-All is super cheap. It's Irad Ortiz, which has all the accoutrements to be. I'm not sure that 7-5 isn't being that David was thinking. I won't be surprised if she's lower.
Okay.
With Irad and an 85 buyer showing in this race, I mean, she could be way short, and she's just a tough horse to take a short price. Anyway, go ahead with Jason Brin.
I just thought that she's been MTO'd a couple of times when it hasn't come off the turf. She's been a filly that she's been in tougher races. Indian Bella would be the big favorite in here. Girl of Toscanova, horses like that would fit in here on numbers. Now she gets into a starter spot where Know-It-All Audrey, if you take her out of the equation, she's the horse to beat. And if you don't think she's going to run back to the race, that's where I was going with it. And I just thought she could kind of stalk and sit in behind the speed. New York Banker coming out doesn't help me.
So when I first looked at Racing Colors, who you've probably rightfully dismissed in here. I just was going to pitch this horse. And then I thought to myself, we'll show this is the race last time at Gulfstream. I thought, why would Peter Walder make a private purchase of this horse? He's part owner of this horse. And ship this horse up to New York.
She's New York bred.
I get it, but still, I guess that's the reason. She's a New York
Bonus
bred.
money
But why bother? I mean, she's not much horse. I guess they bought her because she's a New York bred, and I guess that you're right. That is the reason. But he shipped a horse in from Florida that looked hopelessly overmatched, at least to me on paper, and got beaten in the nose by a Klarovich horse back in April that I thought should have been 20-1, that went up 6 or 8-1. And ran big. And I just wonder if Walder shipping in here in a race where at least her last fig, ex-Noah Audrey, makes her a player in here. He buys the horse privately to bring up here, and you may be right. It's just a case of finding a New York bred to bring up here. But he gets this horse from a relatively low percentage, not terrible, but relatively low percentage trainer. It's Peter Walder, and I thought this horse might be a little bit interesting new face in a race where I'm awfully sick of a lot of these horses in here. I mean, you've got I'm Nervous Now second.
I was hoping the
You're
blinkers.
just feeling bad for Saul Cuthbert or something?
I was hoping the blinkers woke her up. She was down on a rail last time that I didn't think was great, but I thought she would maybe end with this. If she can get me a little closer. New York Banker not in here, blinkers on. Maybe she.
Yeah, she can be closer.
She could be closer. And
I just hate her maiden win so much.
That's fair. She beat Yogi in laughter.
Yeah. I thought Mia be a star. Now, obviously, she's hurt by the scratches,
Yeah.
but I thought she was she gets a gigantic rider change off the last race, and she actually ran enough last time, if you believe the fig. Now, the problem is, if you think it's a race that may be 10 points slower, then suddenly she's still running those mid-50s, and it does feel like her form has declined precipitously over the last few races, but it is an interesting rider change, though she has had good riders in the past, but she was in very good form at one time, and didn't think she was impossible, but the scratch hurts her.
Yeah, she was better at Saratoga, and she needs them to go. If anybody's flying late, it's going to be her, but I thought it was more likely before we lost the two horses.
It is a scary number what my man Eddie O would have won, Eddie Olczyk, if she had won. If she had won that race at Belmont, she lost by a nose.
Oh, right.
She was 43-1 that day. She should have been about 8-1. Anyhow, I think once again, listen, maybe overcomplicating it. We're both trying to beat Noah Audrey, but I think she's a very, very dubious heavy favorite. And then we come to the last, which unfortunately is off the turf, but it did hold together pretty well. We're not going to show any of the videos for this race, guys. I don't know if I've made that clear or not beforehand. So, oh, you've got provision. See, I'm never going to go for the turf horses in these races. Never. But have at it.
I just thought this was a horse that has a bit of a dirt pedigree. He's at least shown he's got some turf ability. He's got an ability to run at least on that surface. He's half to Trinity Titoli, who's a dirt winner, half to Princess Pinky, who's a dirt winner.
She said he's a dirt winner, not a dirt horse. Princess Pinky's a better turf horse.
Yeah, probably, but I had to build a case here somehow.
for a horse that's going to be overbet based on turf form.
I'm hoping everybody looks at the turf races and says, oh, not really a dirt horse.
Yeah, they don't.
And then it never
That's
really
the
doesn't
problem.
happen, does it?
Listen, I hear you. She's obviously an okay horse. And I'm not going to be surprised she wins. I'm never going to bet these horses. But it is problematic for the pick six, because to suggest that I don't think this horse can win, even though I'm betting the horse against the horse in smaller majors, and you're putting a lot of money in the pick six, you've got to use horses like this. You've probably got to use Barry the Builder, though I wouldn't use Barry the Builder.
Nah.
And you use the Thrill of Victory. What is Destin? Is he a turf, dirt, synthetic?
I don't know. They really haven't figured it out. Like this is probably one of his highest earning buyer horses, right?
Poor Destin.
Yeah. So
I bet him. Lost by the Belmont by a nose on my birthday. I bet him. I'm going to go against the turf horses, what I'm going to do. And listen, I copped out with a horse that's going to be a short price in the number 13 Atlanta's Acuna, but I was kind of hoping that because they would bet these turf horses. And the other thing is, it's not like these turf horses have ran such big numbers on the turf. So I'm not sure that they're really that much better than Atlanta's Acuna. And if Atlanta's Acuna just improves a little bit and they're not dirt horses at all, he's probably going to win this race. So I've got him on top. And I know I copped out with an MTO. I'd love to know why Mr. Marlin came out. I was surprised by that, but I'll use the Tom Morley horse that stays in. Mighty Atlas, who I read Ortiz is going to be riding. People might not know it, so it might be a bigger price.
Yeah.
Is there anybody I couldn't find? I mean, we both got you've got the Clement horse, Ayula. I've got him fourth, you've got him second.
I thought this was kind of a dirt pedigree, and I know this is another one of those situations where you got to get them on the turf before we put it away for the winter. And you can always come back to the dirt if you have to later. Alternation, Oaklawn handicap winner. The mare is the first foal, but the second dam's all dirt winners. Absolutely stylish, and Hoffenheim, like there's dirt pedigree in here. It's a Tisnow mare. Maybe he's just slow, and that's why he was going to run on the turf.
And I had him higher than the other Clement, because the other Clement is an army mule that Christophe entered long on the turf the first time. Now, I'm never surprised when Christophe wins off the turf races, because he stays in these races and he has success in them. Yeah. But an army mule going long first time on the turf, I smell a rat with that horse. So I have the horse. I have Tony O, actually. In their third, and you have them fourth. From a dirt pedigree standpoint, the Dammer has 71, Byron the Dirt is 69. The turf, she's over 12. She's produced turf horses, but as a Lauban, and I thought this horse could be a little interesting.
Yeah, I was kind of intrigued, at least by the Lauban part of it, and Donk, another guy that stays in and wins off the turf races every once in a while. This one sibling won on the dirt, a horse named Dooley. So we're just taking a shot here on a horse.
The mighty Dooley.
Yeah.
Leo O'Brien. He was a little on the slow side. He was a little on the slow side. Looking at the pick six quickly, because we've got about 2-3 minutes to go through it. This is one of these pick sixes that even at $1, I give you a $2,000 bankroll to put together a ticket. I don't think you're necessarily a favorite to hit it. I think it's very difficult. Where do you lean in here?
Well, you got to pick one of those early 3 races where you're going to lean. So whether it's self-isolation is going to be your single A, Don't Lose Cruise, or
I think it's Don't Lose Cruise.
I think so too.
I think if I had to, even though I picked against him, I would lean the most heavily on him. But I'd want horses like the 4 and the 8 as B's somewhere as well. In the second leg, I mean, do you really want to lean on Wooten Bassett? I would lean on Wooten Bassett and Shadow Sphinx as A's, but I would have it can be done as a B.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you're starting to bet a lot, because in the first race, you like the 2, who you would. If we were partners, you would convince me to use, but I got to use the 1, and I got to have the 3 higher than you do. And you don't even like the 1, Sweet Wilhelmina, particularly.
No, I think she hits the board. I don't think she's a huge win threat.
But it's very tricky. And then there's self-isolation, who you might sort of be, you don't use this horse as an A or B, and she wires the field, and you feel like a complete moron.
When she pays $7. Yeah.
Right, and how many horses can you possibly use? So probably the 6th race is where you have to really hone in, depending on your bankroll. The 7th race, I'd have to use 1, 3, 11.
Yeah.
Somewhere, maybe all as A's.
Do you want to somehow just get to Atlanta's Acuna and whatever else happens?
No, I don't want it. That's the problem. Do you really want to have all your eggs in the basket of Atlanta's Acuna? Because the reality is that he's not that good. And if Provision or a first-time starter handles the dirt, even the Thrill of Victory isn't totally impossible if he handles it. And it's not like the Tom Morley horse did any running first time out, Mighty Atlas, but did run it against much, much better horses.
Yeah, so you got to figure out which poison you want to pick, which pill you're going to swallow. For me, it's Don't Lose Cruise. I think that's what majority of people are going to go to. If you could go outside the limb and say, I'm going to beat that horse, there's value there. But
right, the 2 biggest singles in the sequence are Don't Lose Cruise and the Rail Know-It-All Audrey in the 8th race.
Yeah,
they're the biggest leads in the sequence, because I don't think there's anywhere else you can absolutely lead.
No, and the thing is we're sitting here saying Know-It-All Audrey's got to be against her.
I'm trying to beat her.
So you're going to have to get narrow somewhere else to make this work.
Right. No, it's an interesting sequence, and I think for people, used to hear people say, "Oh, if I had a big bankroll." And that's from the pick $6 $2, and Steve Bick used to run a contest on his board. You got a $5,000 mythical bankroll, hit the pick 6, and 30, 40 people would play, and maybe one person would hit it. It's very, very hard, and all of these things, it starts to exponentially blow up your ticket. It's if you're not really a pick 6 player, or you play for small money, do it sometimes just as an exercise. Because, if you put down on paper a $2,500 ticket, and there's no way you're going to play it, you can't cry afterwards, see, I would have hit it. But I think it goes to show, not so much, it shows you how little, you think $2,500 goes a long way. It doesn't go as far as you think when the races are as wide open as these races are.
Yeah, it doesn't get you that 6th or 7th horse that you might want to take, unless you're willing to really go single somewhere.
Well, like the 7th, like the 5th winner in the sequence, the $60 horse, who was a horse that was very much usable, but very tough to get a ticket. Rob, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much,
Look forward to having
Andy.
you fill in again. Anthony, of course, will be back tomorrow. We'll head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, head on over to Naira Bets right now. Use the promo code CUP25, $200 deposit match, and a free $25 play. We have pick 6 carryover once again, race number 4 through 9, $159,000. We begin adding an extra pick 4. We'll have a middle pick 4, race 9, race 3 today. That'll start. So we got pick 4s in races 2, 3, and 6. Pick 5, of course, races 1 and 5. We have $15 bonus. Opt in over at Naira Bets. Bet 75 more at Delaware. And here at Belmont, the Big A, get a $15 bonus. We have the contest, a $300 buy-in. You have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to sign up. $2,000 seeded pool. That'll be the last Belmont the Big A contest, but of course we're back at Aqueduct the following weekend. Don't know if we're running one on Breeders' Cup Day or not. See how that plays out. I will not be here next week, actually, so you'll be rid of me for a week. And we also have the show, 12:30 to 5, America's Day at the Races. Enjoy. Rob, thanks again. Johnny I is back in the booth. He's up next to reprise Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.